Wonderful. Okay, share screen. So this is our lunch and learn of PCOS. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to be on this call today. Okay, so I'm Taz Ferreira. I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and my background is in genetics. And I furthered my studies into becoming functional medicine doctor. So the past couple years, I've been seeing an increase, an influx in PCOS. And this is something that's been affecting so many women and younger and younger. And you know what? This is the perfect timing because we're in March and this is Women's Health Month. So why not discuss something that's been affecting so many women? So I'm just going to dive in today. And we have incredible testimonials. Okay, so medical gaslighting. So I used to work in allopathic medicine. So I heard this so often, okay, that as women, we are told that maybe our symptoms don't matter. You know, it's just a women's problem. It's the menopause, these symptoms are normal. Hormonal contraception is the only thing we can do for you, right? How many of us have heard that? Birth control, you need to go on birth control, right? So if you guys, this sounds familiar, please drop me a 1. I want to know if this is relating and speaking to you guys. Periods, they're supposed to be painful. Just get on with it, right? We hear these things so many times that they dismiss us. They dismiss our feelings. And you know what happens when you dismiss someone's feelings? You miss things. You miss vital things that's been happening in the body. You start seeing it when it becomes too late. So here I am, partnered with Purium and the Million Mom Movement, that I'm going to show you guys solutions and ways that you are going to become really receptive in knowing what's going on with your body. Okay, so no one's going to be gaslighting you again. So PCOS, recognizing signs and symptoms. Okay, so first of all, what is PCOS? I hear so many people call it Pcos or so many other words, but it's PCOS, okay? It's an acronym for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a hormonal imbalance that affects a reported 10% of all women. This is a huge number. And you know what? In the past year, it has increased dramatically, and not just increased to women, increased to younger women. So we are going to be talking about that today. And it's an estrogen dominance, and often excess androgen present in these women and will lead to many states of disease downstream. When I say that, I mean it's always interconnected and a cascading effect. So signs of PCOS, if you're on this call and you didn't even think if you were going through PCOS symptoms, well, let me tell you a little bit about what these symptoms may look like. And drop me a 2 if you have 1, 2, or a couple of these, okay? Weight gain, unexplained weight gain that came out of nowhere. Fatigue, you know, the exhaustion that you have and you're like, I don't know, I try everything to get out of bed and I'm still exhausted. How about facial or excess body hair growth, thinning hair on your head, infertility, acne, irritability, insomnia, and or headaches? So many women with PCOS are not ovulating optimally, or therefore making much progesterone. And this puts them in an estrogen dominant state. Okay, so this is going to be a lot of information. So I'm going to try to make it as easy and compressed as possible. Talking about PCOS is a lot of hormones, and we have to address them all. We can't just address the sex hormones. We need to address them all, because what happens is that all these hormones is like, they're like a soup and they're all mixed together and they're all interconnected. So we're going to be talking about a couple of them of how they work together. So this anovulation is often caused by the excessive testosterone as a result of high insulin levels from insulin resistance. So every month, women are here to produce progesterone and produce estrogen to have hormone balance, right? But what happens when you have a failure to ovulate? Can be affected by your insulin level. Thus, the pancreas works harder to work and pump insulin. But it might look optimal, okay? So I'm talking about your insulin levels. So of course, you might go to be testing your insulin levels and you're like, but I'm not seeing any results here. Everything looks optimal. Well, let's dive a little deeper. Okay, let's look at the root causes of PCOS. So some root causes of PCOS are insulin issues, adrenal dysfunction, and of course, inflammation. So when it comes to insulin issues, you might have everything from dark patches on your skin, acne, excessive thirst. When you get injured, it takes a long time to heal. When it comes to adrenal dysfunction, your cortisol may be low or high, so that's your stress hormone. Your excessive stress, high anxiety, difficulty sleeping. Does this sound like anyone we might know? How about inflammation? Digestive issues. You know, we always have to talk about the microbiome and the gut. Hormones cannot work alone. The gut always needs to be addressed. Food sensitivity. How about that? All of a sudden you have unexplained allergies. Pay attention to all of these things. Last week I did a call on Fierce Friday about perimenopausal and menopausal. So during this presentation, you're going to start making your own interconnective links. How that actually is not too far off from PCOS, right? All of these things start happening in your body, but there's a reason why. Okay, so you have different PCOS types. So we have the insulin. So I have these images there. You can just take a look. And of course, how the hormones work. And let's look at insulin. So what I've noticed is that insulin plays a huge part in PCOS. So we know that insulin resistance is it's epidemic, right? It is an epidemic. And it is indeed reversible in many cases with persistent lifestyle changes. How incredible is that? If we can change lifestyle situations, we can change this. And high insulin in women can promote more testosterone secretion, okay? And without ovulation, a woman does not make progesterone and thus may become vulnerable to symptoms of estrogen dominance. When this happens repeatedly, it can cause what we label as PCOS. How many women out there didn't even know they had PCOS, right? Until it started reoccurring more than once. There's not always the immediate testings. Your doctor just diagnosed you with PCOS, right? But regardless of your insulin resistance, can be addressed directly and can be reversed. So how high insulin affects PCOS? Anyone here, have you ever had a high insulin level and then correlated to your PCOS? Drop me a 1. Let me know if this has ever happened to you. Okay, so when you have too much insulin, this is produced with each meal. Your insulin hangs around in the bloodstream, right? Your ovary sees insulin and then makes more testosterone. Then the testosterone confuses the ovaries and then the follicles do not grow. Okay, luteinized hormones elevates chronically and prevents ovulation. No ovulation means no progesterone, so uterine line doesn't shed. So what that means is that when you go through, this is usually the #1 way that someone knows that they have PCOS. When their periods go away, they were like, well, what's happening? I had my period one day and then I just stopped having it. Well, let's start looking at where did this begin? Are you looking at your fasted insulin levels? No? Well, here is your chance. I would highly recommend that you start looking at your fasting insulin levels. And the levels I like to look at that raises flags for me is the level 5 and 6. I showed a slide previously from a nutritionist saying that they would look at their fasting insulin to be around 10. And for me, clinically, that is the numbers to look at. But in a functional medicine point of view, that is too elevated. So when the levels are 5 and 6, this is when the androgens are happening. That's when you have, it's your warning signs that you need to start paying attention to. So always look at your fasting insulin levels. Okay, so let's talk about elevated free testosterone. Yeah, this is a huge issue when it comes to this. So signs of high androgen in PCOS. So when the conversion happens of all the hormones, this is what happens. You get the irregular periods, you get the hormonal acne, oily skin. How about hair loss? How about hirsutism? So that is when you have excess hair all over that you don't want it to be, not on your head, right? And then you have fertility issue, and then that's linked with depression, anxiety, all of these issues. Okay, and see, we have so many people who have all of these excess body growth. And then I have this image about the signs and symptoms of PCOS, because you might have one or two or all of them, right? It does not matter. This can all be a sign. So I have one of my colleagues. She's my colleague and a dear friend. We work together in a lot of these issues, and she is the ultimate expert when it comes to xenoestrogens. So I wanted to have her on to talk a little bit about the outside factors. So, you know, we're talking about how all the hormones are interconnected. So what happened is our world, our environment is flooded with toxicity. Okay. And then what happens with these toxicity? It changes what's going on with our body. The xenoestrogen, glyphosate, all of these things matter. And we find them all around us. So I'm going to have her share a little bit about xenoestrogen and where it can be found and what we can do to switch it up in our life.
Hello, everybody. Can you all hear me? Can you just go like this if you can hear me?
We hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this hits hard for me because I had PCOS for over 10 years and it was an intense journey for me. And so one of the things that I really want to bring onto every single woman, plus that who might have a kid, is that a lot of the times this PCOS can be driven by environmental factors like all of the chemicals that we're bringing home that we don't know about. And so that's one of the things that me and Taz really want to push in is like, there's a lot of things that are so obvious that you're using every day that could be disrupting your cycle. And so one of the things that it does is that these chemicals imitate estrogen. They're like the best con artists for estrogen. They pretend they are estrogen. And so they bind to the same receptors as estrogen and keep the body in estrogen dominant response, which is not what you want for your entire cycle. So can you go to the next slide, Taz? Okay, so very, very simple graph, but I want all of the females right here to listen to me carefully because you have a responsibility to know about your cycle. Do you see the estrogen line, the continuous line in your cycle? That, as you can see, around day 14 is peaking. And that is the ideal time for you to ovulate. That's why it's peaking. But then it really has to go down so that the progesterone goes up and you're ready to be pregnant, be fertile, and have a kid. So what happens is with all of these, estrogens, the curve does not go down anymore and it keeps high or continuous or just goes down really low. And this is where all of the problems start arising. But so let's go to the next slide, Taz. And so just look at this image. These are pretty much where all of your xenoestrogens are hiding really well and you have no idea about. And so just this can be scary because you're probably looking at this image and you're like, I use at least 5 or 6 of these things a day. Like who here is using some of these things a day? Anyone? Raise your hand. Yeah, totally. So let's start with Next slide, Taz. Let's start with something that you're doing every single day, at least 3 or 4 times a day, which is drinking a big bottle of water. So water can be tricky because even though your government likes to tell you the water is clean and it has no bacteria, well, it's not telling you that it's not coming with all the other chemicals that you're, putting down the toilet or washing your hands with. And that's pharmaceuticals, that's like cosmetics, detergents, anything that you're using that goes back into the water eventually comes back to your tap water without you knowing that it's there. And so it's really important that anyone here gets a tap water filter. And if you cannot invest in one that is more sophisticated, start getting a little bit of just like the more simple one. Zero water is one that works well. Okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, so another one, phthalates, right? And so just think about all of the things that you have in your home that is malleable plastic. Literally anything that is plastic and you can move is not hard, firm plastic. It's covered in phthalates. And so this really contaminates anything it touches, and you're getting in contact with it or eating it every day. So one of the things that I see a lot in America is the styrofoam cups that people are drinking hot coffee in, or hot beverages, or even cold beverages. And I cannot emphasize enough that 90% of your drink is going to be phthalates and other plastic endocrine disruptors. You can go on the next one. Yeah, for example, you hear a lot, Miso paste is a great probiotic. Buy some Miso paste. People are buying Miso paste in plastic containers or in plastic malleable bags. What are they getting with it? Typically healthy Miso paste, a lot of disrupting chemicals. And so it's really good to know that where the food is coming from is as important as what the food is. And so all of these sausages that are wrapped in plastic, sausages that are already type 1 carcinogen, and then they put it in plastic, it's even worse. Next. Okay, guys. So again, solution, anything glass, no plastics in your house. Try to eliminate as possible, especially if you have a plastic bottle and you leave it in your car. I guarantee you that you're drinking just plastic water. So try to get one of either plastic or stainless steel. Purem has a great stainless steel bottle right here. So please just do something about it and just keep it. Next. Okay. This one is my favorite. Why? As females, every month, we're using a bunch of these products and we're putting it in direct contact with our private parts, if not inside, right? If you're a tampon user, you're putting it directly in and it's absorbing straight into your bloodstream. It's not passing through the liver, it's not passing through anything, it's directly absorbed, right? And so one of the things that I want to emphasize is anyone who's still using pads and tampons, make sure that you're buying this from an organic cotton source. That means at least that the pesticides and the herbicides are gone. So you're not gone, but at least almost 100% gone. You can't really guarantee because of possible cross-contamination. But compared to the normal products, it's a big deal. And then, yeah, just make sure that you're switching this. And then the solutions are beyond, Taz, you can go to the next slide. They're beyond just organic cotton pads and stuff like that. You actually have, washable panties, or you have menstrual cups, etc. Okay, so this one I wanted to put in because I see a lot of people using these dryer sheets. And these dryer sheets are actually one of the worst xenoestrogen products in the market. And you put in this to make your clothes soft and you love it because it smells good. And so anytime your clothes now come in contact with your skin, you're absorbing this every day. And it's true that the quantity makes the poison, but think about it. How many times are you washing your clothes and then you put them on every single day? And so a solution, a brand that I really like is called Branch Basics. But if you don't want to use any products, you can use baking soda and vinegar as a softener and a cleaner, and that works perfectly well. So it won't have the smell, but it will be clean. So I was just looking here to the comments, see if there's anything. Yeah. Okay, so here, the problem with skincare is, okay, so women, right? We're told that we have to use makeup to look good, or use products in our skin to have like radiant skin, beautiful soft skin. Most men are not using anything and they have the skin that we want. Let's ask the question why most of the times. And so a lot of the companies that you're using are filled with chemicals, like filled with them. And then I'm going to show you a slide of all of the companies not to buy from. So please, everyone, take a screenshot. Even at this, take a screenshot of all of these chemicals right here and just look for them in the stuff that you have right now. Some of the solutions that I like a lot are the brands here. So again, take a screenshot of the slide and start buying from these brands. Even your toothpaste is a very important source of chemicals. So for example, little kids that they literally eat the toothpaste every time that they brush their teeth, make sure that you're buying a much safer option for your kids. And so Osea, Anne-Marie, Risewell, all of these are good brands. Next. Okay, so take a screenshot of that, because honestly, anyone who uses these brands, trash them. And if you use them sparingly. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is a question that I just get all of my clients through it. And it usually tells me a lot about if they have high toxic burden or not. And so answer all of these questions. If the majority is a yes, then you have a lot of place for improvement. But at the end of the day, if you have a yes to all of these, it's okay, because now you can do something about it. And the most important thing is that you at least switch one of the things that you have in your household that you know is very toxic, because we know from studies that just one simple switch can lower like 90% of that specific toxin in your urine. So like how you're releasing your toxins. So that's very important. One of the biggest sources of BPAs, of bisphenols, of all of this is actually dairy and not like conventional meats. So if you're still buying that, a big thing that you can do for your household is to just start buying that organic, or for at least safer options, and just lower the quantity as much as you can, even if you want to enjoy those. Next. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite tips for just like helping your body release all of the extra estrogen. And that is just to always get a bunch of fiber with your meals, because that's literally how your liver and your gut together get the extra estrogen, and just literally you poop it out. And without the fiber, so if you have a diet and high animal products or dairy or processed foods, I guarantee you that your estrogens are going to be way higher than they need. And so just get a bunch of vegetables in there, and you'll probably be good with your metabolism. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Maria. You know, I like to say sluggish liver, sluggish everything.
Yeah.
Right? Everything is completely interconnected. So I wanted to talk about nutrition, how nutrition can help. Okay, but we are a little pressed for time, and I really wanted to get to one of my testimonials because I know she has to hop off soon. So before I get into this, okay, so now we hear all of the issues. So I'm going to have her unmute herself, Reem, and talk to us a little bit about your story.
Thank you very much, Tess. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm going to do a quick test, just what Maria did. So I'm going to say hello to everyone and say hello back if you can hear me well.
Perfect.
Hello to you too. All right, so where do we start? I'm going to just go ahead and jump into what got me here. I used to get migraines, and I'm not talking about regular migraines. These were the ones that would put you in the bed, close out the lights, you can't move, you can't do anything, and they would just put me out of my productivity. And as you can tell from what I'm wearing right now, I'm a very professional person. My career has always been something that I aspire to do. And that has been a very big challenge for me. So I went ahead and I contacted Dr. Maria. She just went before me, and I was like, listen, these migraines, what am I going to do about them? They're just stopping me from living my life. And to my surprise, from migraines, I started connecting the dots with her. So it wasn't just the migraines. I had cystic acne that would be the size of a balloon on my cheek. And I would cover it up all with makeup because I thought this was normal. I was like, yeah, everyone gets acne. My face has acne, that's normal. And then I started discovering that even the facial hair was there and it wasn't normal. Even the pain that I used to have was not normal. So I was like, what's going on here? It's not just these few things that I thought were normal, but now we're connecting the dots. So what happened was a few months ago, I got hospitalized for extreme pain in my right abdominal. For my thought, it was an intestinal pain. I just thought something was wrong with my stomach. To my surprise, it was in my ovaries. I had a cyst on my ovaries that was a cancerous size that caused me to be hospitalized at that day. And I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. I was sedated. I took all the medication that could be given so that I would deal with the pain. The first thing that the doctors told me was, you either go to the pill and take the pill for the rest of your life because you have PCOS. You have to take the pill. Or they wanted to do a surgery for me to extract that ovarian cyst that I had. So I called Maria. I was in the hospital. I was crying. I was like, what do I do? These people are telling me either to start taking medication or they're going to put me under the knife. And that's when I discovered that so intentionally I could heal myself just by changing a few things in my lifestyle, by choosing better and making better choices for myself and bringing in the right products into my body. I could be able to heal myself. Now I'm going to fast forward into what happened later on, because she did a big challenge for me and it was very tough because I was a big dairy person. Like dairy for me was, my mom would feed me yogurt when I was sick, that kind of dairy. And I got a challenge, go vegan for a month. I think it was exactly 2 weeks and then I extended it. I was like, what? Cut off dairy, cut off hormonal animal-based food? What are you talking about that? What does that have to do with my PCOS anyways? Then we started cutting off everything. I went on clean food and I introduced Purian products into my life as well because I wanted to have superfoods. I knew that it wasn't only the food that I was going to take, but I needed the superfoods as well. And then slowly, my acne started to dissolve. Just because I stopped having that yogurt that I used to have, or just because I started choosing better for the food that I had. And I remember the one product, and I want to talk about that. I don't know if I'm allowed to task here, but I really want to mention it, is because because I want to say, when I started just by the biomedic, I don't want to talk about anything else. I just want to talk about the biomedic because honestly, when I introduced the biomedic into my life, it wasn't only the PCOS that I found changes in, it was everything. My gut health, my mood, my acne, my hair. I was like, what's going on? I'm a whole new person. And then when I introduced it to my family as well, to my partner, to my family, I'm like, listen, I think you guys need to also try this. Okay, someone's saying to pin the speaker, so I'm going to try that for you guys to help you better. There you go. Now you can see me better. So when I introduced it to my family as well, that's where I saw the change. So going back to the PCOS, after 4 months of just changing my lifestyle, I did not take a single medication, a single pill. The doctors wanted to see me within 4 months to do another ecography to check on my health and to decide if I'm going to go for a surgery or not. I did a scan and there was nothing on my ovaries. Nothing. Like I'm gonna get a bit emotional here, but there was nothing. The doctors were like, are you sure that you had PCOS before? Because what we see now is you have nothing. There's nothing on your ovaries are clean. And I'm like, what do you mean they're clean? I was horrified a couple of months ago telling me that I have a cancerous cyst on my ovary. What are you saying? And within just 4 months, I was able not only to deal with my PCOS, but I was also able to heal myself. And I came here today to tell you guys that it's really not impossible. It's really possible. And just because I had the right support, like I had the right people next to me telling me it's going to be okay, just try this, we're next to you, don't be scared. And I always used to trust what the doctors would say, but now I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe I know better. I learned about my body and now I know how to deal with it. And so today I can proudly say that I have no symptoms for my PCOS anymore. My period comes as smoothly as possible, as regularly as possible. There is no need for me to take any medication, neither for pain, nor for me to deal with my PCOS. And that challenge that I had to change my lifestyle for that 1 month, until today, I have cut out the hormonal food and I kept the superfoods into my life. So now I'm like, you know what? It's not only about letting go of the PCOS or healing myself for that one thing, but I want to maintain that kind of a lifestyle. And I even want my family to do that. So I hope that inspired the ladies out there and even the gentlemen to really look at whatever you've been told by the doctors. Oh, you have this. This is what's going to happen to you. Really question it and start asking your body, what can you do? Because trust me, they can do a lot. So you can see my skin. I have no filter on. You guys can see the difference. And I'm going to show you a few before and after later on so you guys can see them as well. But thank you so much for giving me the space to share here, Tas. I'll give it back to you. And this is my story. Thank you.
So much, Reem. I love hearing your story. It's so powerful. You were told that you had to do surgery, right? You had to
Yes.
pill. This was your only solution, right? Which was so limited. So I'm so grateful that you had the thought and the idea, maybe there's something more I could look into, right? And I know that biomedic wasn't the only thing you introduced. I know food was also a part of this, right? And I am going to be explaining how biomedic, zinc aid, all of these superfoods actually helps our bodies in so many levels. The more we start understanding it, the more we're understanding how our body is interconnected and what toxins can do, what environmental toxins and the food we eat is a huge impact. I love how you associated dairy with the hormones, right? And our bodies are going through hormonal imbalances. So I had to have Raymond right away because I know she's super busy and I know her story would be so beneficial for each and every one of you. So Reem, if you have nothing else to add, I will go into the nutrition aspect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time. Good.
So much.
Good luck, everyone, changing your life, because trust me, you can do it, starting as of now.
Exactly. And it's a lifestyle change. This is not a one-time thing because after Reem did the ultimate lifestyle transformation twice, right? And then she started feeling better and better, right? So it only shows you little changes and then doing greater changes can only make a huge difference, right? Okay, so I'm going to go on to talking about nutrition. Okay, so important PCOS do's and don'ts, okay? So you need to start limiting your sugar intake. And when I say sugar intake, I mean all processed sugar. They have to go. And looking at nutrient density over calories. We need to introduce as much micronutrients as possible, okay? And carbohydrates. How many of us, we always hear, well, you have to cut carbohydrates, but it's not about cutting carbohydrates, it's cutting simple carbohydrates and introducing complex carbs into your life. Protein, this is essential. You need to include it at every meal. And stress, you need to keep your stress at a minimal level. This is your cortisol. When your stress is too high, your insulin level goes up. But you know it's bad as well. If your cortisol levels are low, you can still have a bad effect from that. And this is not about perfection. You can start including a couple of things. Start making these changes because this is not a one-time thing. This is a whole lifestyle change, okay? This is why I say there's no short-term diet. This is lifestyle change. And start introducing, meditation, relaxation, all of these, body, mind, soul, they're all interconnected. Okay, so we are going to be talking about hormones, right? Is this what it's all about? And we can't leave out our steroidal hormone of vitamin D. Vitamin D plays a huge part in PCOS, and I mean the deficiency of vitamin D. This is of note because vitamin D, we know it's a hormone, a steroidal hormone, and optimal levels help to regulate estrogen and integrate hormonal signals. Everything, all the micronutrients in our bodies send signals to each other. So if one is not working, what happens? It creates a cascading effect on our entire system. So when you are deficient in vitamin D while having PCOS, this is what you normally feel: fatigue, tiredness, joint pains, back pains, depression, your hair is falling out, you're gaining weight. How about anxiety? all of these issues starts happening. And vitamin D does not work alone, okay? So it needs to work with all of the other micronutrients, right? Which are vitamin A, C, E, zinc, they all work together. These are all the cofactors. Oh, and I have to talk about the importance of folate. The deficiency of this particular nutrient is because folate is key in the methylation, which is needed to process estrogen. The more we understand how our bodies work and how these key micronutrients actually affects it, now we know what to look for, right? And I'm not talking about folic acid. You have to look at folate through nutrition, through whole food nutrition. So I always like recommending green spectrum for my folates. Here you have your cabbage, you have your sprouts, you have your broccoli, you have all your sea veggies, and it tastes delicious. And also bioavailable B12. So you need all of your B vitamins, okay? And it's a key to help with estrogen detoxification. And another thing, there's something called Inocitol. It's a sugar alcohol that may help with PCOS as well. So this is something else that you can incorporate in your life. Intermittent fasting, I highly recommend it if you are going through PCOS. Why? Because it helps reset hormone balance. I also recommend reducing or just eliminating altogether dairy, okay? And all meats that are full of hormones, right? If you're gonna look at meats, please look for an organic version, eliminate all artificial sugar completely, and eliminate all processed foods. No more junk food. You have to look at whole food nutrition. Now we have to talk about magnesium, the benefits of magnesium for PCOS. So it encourages sleep, it improves your mood and anxiety, it helps your blood sugar levels, it can help with your bowel regularity, it lowers inflammation and blood pressure, right? What do we hear here? The cortisol level, the inflammation, the insulin, this is all interconnected. So my favorite source of magnesium is in ionic elements. Ionic elements has all of your trace minerals. So you have your selenium, your barium, everything is included, your magnesium. So add this to your life every day. And the reason I was saying that you need to start quitting sugar when you have PCOS is that it has a whole cascading effect of all other deficiencies. So when you have magnesium deficiency, let's look at that. High cortisol levels, look at that. And your insulin level, that's huge. But do you notice here that not one part of this is lack of willpower, meaning you can do it. You can change your life. You could change your lifestyle habits with simple ways. And we are breaking it down for you. We are showing you ways how you actually can put your body in its optimal state. Okay, I hear this all the time by so many women that they tell me, they're like, I have PCOS and I'm exhausted. And you know what happened when they feel this exhausted and this fatigue? They feel bad about themselves. They're like, everyone's looking at me and telling me that I'm lazy. But you know, it's not that. It's your body fighting this constant battling with inflammation, which is causing this fatigue. So it's not you, it's what's happening in your body. So the more we understand what's happening, now we can start rewording ourselves and not looking at ourselves negative, because self-talk is very important as well. Okay, now the importance of superfoods. Okay, so low adiponectin. Adiponectin is your fat burning hormone, okay? Low adiponectin levels are also highly associated with insulin resistance and increased inflammation. Okay, so you remember when Reem was talking about how when she introduced Biomedic, that actually helped all of her symptoms? Well, Biomedic actually repairs your microbiome. It reduces the chemical glyphosate by 75%, and it removes C-reactive protein, which is your inflammation biomarker, by 74%. So Biomeg does that. And then we're talking about the adiponectin. So the Power Shake, this green, delicious superfood, it has something called rice bran solubles, which actually activates the adiponectin levels in your body. That helps your insulin levels, which helps your inflammation levels. So you always need to look at organic whole foods, right? Start making the switch today. And then we have our apothecary. So now your microbiome is being repaired. Your serotonin levels are working. They are sending a signal to your pituitary, which is your melatonin levels, which is another hormone that you have your apothecary. So now you're taking that and now you are having deep sleep. Okay. And of course you need the protein. So you have your super aminos. And then the zinc aid. Remember I was talking about how all of the minerals work together? Zinc, A, D, and E. You have your ionic elements, you have your green spectrum. But there's one more thing. Super Cleanser. This is your parasitic cleanse. I recommend anyone who's going through PCOS that you must do a parasitic cleanse because this has a lot of issues to do with your hormones, your insulin, and the way your body produces sugar. Okay, this is huge. So many people tell me all of the things they're going through, but if you introduce the wrong thing, it can cause another cascading issue. So don't guess, test. Do your testings, your inflammation biomarker, your Dutch test, all your thyroids, your hormones, nutrient deficiency. This is huge. I have so many people who they check their allergy testing, but why aren't we looking at our nutrient deficiency? Let's look at these testings over others. Thank you. Let's get to our other testimonial. I want to get to this testimonial. It's Tao's daughter, who she's 16 years old and she's in school right now. So she sent us a video recording to tell us a little bit about her powerful story. Oh, go back to it.
I'm sorry, am I supposed to be sharing the video? I thought you were.
I'm doing it, yes. It's,
Oh, that's not gonna.
here we go. Can you guys
My
hear
name
it?
is Sila. I'm
Can you hear it? Okay, perfect.
16 years old. I'm in 10th grade now. And before I started Purium, I was eating a lot of fast food and I was addicted to lots of sugar. I was overweight and I had little energy and motivation to do things like schoolwork. And I thought I was the happiest I could be at that time. I thought, this is it. I'm not gonna get any happier than this. I thought I was perfectly fine. My mom told me that I probably had PCOS because I wasn't really getting my period regularly. In fact, it was very irregular. I got my first period when I was 12 years old, and I began to get cysts under my arms in 2020. They were a little painful, and around October 2020, they burst under my arm. So I had to quit my sports because when I was doing physical activity, the cyst, like it would tear like the skin and then like rip open into like a large hole, and that was pretty painful. I had to get surgery in 2021 to remove the cysts because they were just hurting a lot, and there were so many of them. It was hard to get rid of them. The doctor said that I should eat better, like fix my health and my diet, but he never really told me how. So I was struggling with that. The surgery was more painful than before the surgery personally, because there was just huge holes underneath both of my arms, and I had to live with them, and they hurt a lot. It was hard to take showers. I could barely reach above my shoulders, stuck in my room all the time because I was completely drained, focusing on my energy on healing myself and my body. was a very difficult time for me. And I was also dealing with school on top of that. I was a freshman then, fresh out of the pandemic. I wasn't really moving forward at all, and it just really, really sucked. And I got really sad during that time. December 2021 was when I began my first ultimate lifestyle transformation. So I was following in my mom's giant footsteps. I was taking the shakes, taking the biomedic, the aminos. I was steering away from my unhealthy lifestyle that I had before, and I was feeling really good about it because I was like, I'm doing it. I'm on that grind, you know. And I began to feel a lot more positive about myself. I began to start looking forward into the future, and I began to feel a lot happier than I'd had before, which was a huge shocker because I thought I was never gonna be like happier than I already was back then, and I was wrong. It's actually during the finals, which is I think that's pretty insane because as everyone knows, high school finals are a whole different ballpark. And it was my first high school finals. I'd never done high school finals before that. I wasn't that stressed. I think also because of period, because it kind of mellowed out my mood. I was like, I got this, and I went in with self-confidence. I was like, I'm gonna knock it out the ballpark, and I did. I got really good scores. Yeah, I was thinking straight. I was clear. I knew I remembered everything. Usually during tests, I tend to forget a few things out of like nervousness, even though I don't let it show. I'm like, ooh. It really did help. I went into the finals happy, and I came out even happier. I think it worked pretty great. I think the reason why it worked so great though was because I had my mom there to support me. I'm gonna credit the majority of my success when it comes to period to my mom because she held my hand. She took years. It took years to convince me, but she was there the whole time. She walked me through the process. Even when I said I was never gonna do it, even when I called her crazy for doing it and being so excited about it, she just kept at it. She kept convincing me, and she was right. Mother does know best. And she supported me, and I really appreciate that. And I don't tell her that enough, but I really do appreciate it. I wanted to get my period, but I used to actually not really think much of my period. When it was like skipping over months and it wasn't coming, I was like, this is great, because I was never a fan of cramps. I was never a fan of bleeding. I was like, this is great. 6 less months in the year to worry about. Awesome. But then my mom started to tell me that it wasn't so awesome. And I began to see that too. And so I was like, all right, I have to get my period back. And so period really did help me with that. And the first ultimate lifestyle, I didn't get my period, and I did lose some weight, but I gained it back in the time between my first and second. And I was like, you know what? This needs to change. I wanna feel good. I wanna look good. And I was like, well, I know it worked for my mom, so why can't it work for me? And it definitely did. I got my period after the second ultimate lifestyle, which is really great because before then I hadn't had my period in like 130 days. It was like 8 months or something. It was getting really bad. And so I was really relieved when it happened. I feel pretty good about it. I've lost a good amount of weight. I'm finally in my weight range where I am no longer overweight for my height. I feel very proud about that. But I do feel like there's still more for me to do. I still have more in me to fix, even though I can't specifically see it. I can definitely feel it, and I know there's some things I can still change for the better. So I'm definitely looking forward to continuing my period life and fixing those problems. I'm most excited about more victories on the way when it comes to my health and my well-being, because the self-fulfillment I feel when I complete a 10-day outweighs the anger and rage I feel on the first 5 days, because it's just so gratifying. It's like I did it, I've done it, and I can do it again. and other people can do it too. And I'm saving myself. I'm doing this for myself because I believe I deserve it.
Okay. That is so incredible. I had to stop it short. We'll post the rest, the full video in Million Mom Movement. So you guys can all take a look at this and reshare it. Tal, what I noticed from this, her behavior has completely changed. I love when she was talking about how she aced all her exams. She was like, I remembered everything. The retention was there, you know? What a proud mom you must be.
Yeah, proud is understatement. I'm totally gleaming, and even though I edited the video, it's still wow. I just got to watch it. So yeah, she's really changed. Her confidence has just blown through the roof. This is a child who's more of an introvert, and you know, staying in her room during recovering from surgery was not a big deal for her because she's not that person to come out of her shell anyway. So I'm so proud of her. She's really put through a lot of edits to her life. You know, she was a huge Chick-fil-A fan, and her father supported that, of course. And you know, before was McDonald's, so it was like, and she's done a lot of work to edit her nutrition, and you know, has completely cut out the dairy. She even cut out eggs, which had become a big thing from her. Once I removed the Cheerios out of our pantry, eggs were replaced every single day. So she's cut that out. She's cut out all refined sugar, which is huge, and she's a baker. So occasionally she'll do little bakes here and there, but like maybe once a month. This used to be coming off of every 3 days she was baking something.
I tell because I do interconnectedness, right? And we know that these issues don't come out of nowhere, right? It all begins when we're carrying our babies, right? Because we make their microbiome. It starts at that moment. So I need to bring back the interconnected moments because I know you and I know your story. So I know when you had Sela in you, you were diagnosed with gestational diabetes.
Yes, I was. I was very, go ahead.
That's something really important to note. If you are going through gestational diabetes, and I know after you had it, they told it was gone, right?
After delivery, yes.
And what did they tell you?
They said, well, inevitable, by the time you're 40, you're going to have type 2 diabetes.
Right. But they told you, don't worry about it. It's gone.
No problem. It's over now. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Until 16 years later, right? So
Yeah.
Everything we do maybe doesn't happen right away, but eventually it shows up and it takes years to show up. So start paying attention to this. If you are a mom or if you know a mom who's going through gestational diabetes, this is not something to ignore because these are the precursors of what may happen in the future. So I love your story and thank you for sharing it, Tal. Thank you for recording. Sela's story is incredible and so powerful. And we're really pressed for time. And I want to go to Kelly. You have an incredible story as well. Can you please unmute and tell us a little bit about it?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. This has been such an amazing call. All the testimonials are so awesome. Yeah, so for me, I was diagnosed with PCOS around the 2012 year, and I was having like this really just debilitating pain in my right quadrant. They didn't find anything really wrong with me, and I didn't have any blood tests, but they said, well, you have acne and you're overweight, and you have irregular cycles, so you probably have PCOS. And they also told me, you know, get on the birth control, take metformin, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Come back and see us if you have any other issues. Well, I kept having this pain, and I didn't know like how to get rid of it, and they couldn't find anything wrong that was causing this pain. And they said, well, you're just going to have this chronic abdominal pain for the rest of your life. Some women get it and you just have it. So you're going to just have that. And they said, just keep taking the birth control, keep taking the metformin. Well, I was getting sick on this metformin, And I couldn't really, it was like, that was almost more debilitating than the pain was. And I ended up with the birth control, I ended up with a year-long cycle. So I bled for like a whole year. Like, and I keep going back to this doctor that put me on all this stuff. And I'm like, listen, I'm really hurting. I'm really in trouble. And I don't know what to do here. And my periods won't stop. And so her answer was, there's nothing structurally wrong with you. So there's nothing I can do. Her other answer was that she wasn't going to give me any sort of medications because she thought that at this point I was drug seeking. So I couldn't even get help with the pain. And then she prescribed me an entire package, an entire month of birth control to get the period to stop. So I went insane for a weekend, literally went insane. And it was so bad for so long. This whole year, it interrupted my entire life. And I finally begged her for a biopsy of my uterus, and she finally did it, made me feel bad about it, and then called me up like 2 days later or so and told me that I had polyps in my uterus and I had to have a surgery to get the polyps out. So all this stuff that she was telling me to do was actually causing my uterus to overproduce this blood, and it formed, like actual soft tissue that could have caused cancer, right? They had to check me for cancer cells and they had to surgically remove it. It got a little bit better after that surgery, but it never got like all the way better. So I decided that I was no longer going to be on birth control or metformin or anything. And I really was, had a very bad taste in my mouth over doctors. So I just tried to hack it on my own, and I started learning all different kinds of things about nutrition and the body and things of that nature. And I was able to, I started struggling with infertility. So I was able to, through nutrition, have my child, who is now 6, and she is absolutely amazing. So if you have PCOS and you struggle with infertility, it is possible. But I didn't know about Purium until just about a year ago, I want to say. And so just about a year ago, and this, 2012 to, what are we on, 2022? It's a long time. So I had still yo-yoed, with struggling with PCOS for a really long time. And I remember Eric Mish is on this call. I see his name right in front of me. And I remember talking to him and Allison Jade and just crying and saying, like, I don't want to live this way anymore. I remember that, like, it was like a cathartic release. And Eric was, he just got me, and Allison was always telling me, like, well, you could do this and it would help you with your PCOS, and you could do this and it would help you with your PCOS. And I finally did it. I finally did the ULT, and I had struggled at that time with this terrible, terrible brain fog. And I felt like death. Like, I remember taking a picture of myself, like, just so I could remember the death feeling forever, because I never want to repeat that ever again. And within like 4 days of the ULT, that brain fog started to lift. And by day 6, I remember this mental clarity. During that first ULT, I lost like 11 pounds, and I have struggled with weight loss my whole life. And everything just started getting better. I get these like hot knees from all the inflammation, and that was going away. I remember I got my period about halfway through for the first time. I want to say I had gone about 6 or 7 months at that point. And yeah, so I'm 35. So this started when I was turning 34. And I was a 34-year-old woman without having a period, like that, and so I was going through all this stuff, like, am I going to be able to have another baby? Like, I don't know. I was just struggling, right? And so the ULT, it really did a lot of stuff. And what helps now is really just understanding like what the products do and how food interacts with my body, and understanding even like the biomedic, just understanding that it will help lower that inflammation response just from that.
Absolutely.
has
So
really helped. I know we're over time. I'm so sorry.
I want to wrap this up by saying, it's so incredible how our body starts feeling imbalance when our hormones are imbalanced. So what happened to you after your ULT? Your progesterones started getting into balance. So then you became fertile, right? Because this is a huge sign that we're told about infertility when we're going through PCOS, but there is a solution. So the key is to keep your hormones in balance. Well, thank you all for being on this call. Please reshare this call to anyone that you know will highly benefit from it, right? If you don't know, you can share it with someone else, even, men, uncles, aunties, everyone around you. So we have these calls every Friday from the Million Mom Movement called Fierce Friday, okay? This is a collective community of like-minded individuals who have a huge mission ahead of us. And we gather and we talk about issues that are happening each and every day. So we have these calls every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and join us on this call. And thank you so much for being on our Lunch and Learn, and have a beautiful, beautiful afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.